Hello, good evening. I call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. All members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room. I believe Muriel will join us a little bit late, but in person. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. First item on the...
I move to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with the fire and dispatch unions. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 6, to consider purchase, lease, sale, or value of real estate in relation to properties in the vicinity of Town Hall and South Street, property comprising part of Elmwood 3 subdivision development, 0 Hayden Row, the Colella property, 0 Spring Street, the McDonough property, 0 Hill Street, the Carroll property, 0 Cedar Street, the Isadora property, 0 Wood Street, and 5 Mechanic Street, the Larder property, and parcels owned by Umina off of Chestnut Street, because an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the boards. Also to approve executive session meeting minutes, and to allow Norman Kamalu and Elaine Lazarus to participate in executive session, and to reconvene in open session at the conclusion of executive session.
Let's do a roll call vote. Irfan Nasrullah.
Irfan Nasrullah, yes.
Amy Rodabush, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
And Shahidul Manan, yes. Thank you.
So we'll be back after executive session.
In open session. I'm Shahidul Manan, member and vice chair, calling the meeting to order. First item on the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have the public forum to begin with, and I would now please request anyone who wants to speak at the public forum to come forward. Please note that each person will have up to 2 minutes to speak at public forum, and please start by stating your name and address. Is there anyone who wants to come first? Please.
My name's Jamie Gonsalves. I live at 92 Downey Street. I'm also the LMPA president. I'm here in support of the CIG and the DPW in their hopes to do the application of herbicides to Lake Maspinock. We've been at this for 10 years, just about, to get this across the line to address the weeds and to. We've studied this. We've looked at all the options. We've actually written 2 separate reports to get this done. And I'm hopeful that you guys can approve this and move on so we can actually get the application done this year. We're really coming up on a hard deadline of getting the weeds and the application done in the early spring. And you'll hear more about that in the presentation to come. The LMPA has been an active member and partner with the CIG and for the DPW in this whole process. I myself was on the CIG for 5 years. I was on I was on there when they developed the initial plan and the initial review process. As also as LMPA president, we've also gone through, the LMPA has done an extensive educational outreach to the lake residents and people in the watershed to use the lake-friendly fertilizers and to address some of the other issues with stormwater runoff, and we've been partnering with the town to address that. Also looking at helping out voters when they come in to giving them pamphlets so they can figure out where they're bringing in, or are they bringing in non-native species of weeds into the lake and starting a new problem. So we're really hopeful that this process can move forward tonight, and I hope you also support us in that process.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Snow, 78 Pine Island Road. I'm here to see if you have addressed my criminal complaint to the Hopkinton Police Department for the criminal acts of Amy Rittenbush and Chief Bennett.
This is not interactive, but I remember Chair Muriel Kramer,
Kicked down the road for 60 days.
who's been our police liaison, was going to follow up, so we'll wait for her.
So you're telling me I have to wait? Is she on Zoom today?
She's planning to come. That's what she said. She's running late.
So can I speak when she comes?
We are going to close the public session.
Okay, well, might as well get it on the record. So I've kept this in the town. You're violating my civil rights by not following up on this.
But I would
So
suggest,
this is going to be, well, let me speak.
Sure.
I got my 2 minutes. So this is going to be sent to the Attorney General's office. It's going to be sent to the Northwest District. It's going to be sent to the governor's desk. I'm going to send all of the paperwork that you guys have been kicking this can down the road. I filed a simple complaint against an officer and a citizen. They did not follow any policy. You guys have answered 0 questions. Personal opinion, the chief's review tonight, ask him. I know Aaron O'Neill's a good cop. He didn't just throw it in the trash. He gave it to the chief. Where's the document? Simple question. Hold him over the fire. This is wrong. It's not right for you people to be doing this. Follow your policies. We lost probably the only good senior cop in town because he violated something. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you.
good night.
Who's next? Anyone? Oh, please come on in.
Is on? Hi, I'm Don Sutherland, 205 Winter Street. I'm also chair of the Environmental Working Group at the Hopkinton Sustainable Green Committee. And I'm here to voice the opposition to the use of herbicides to control vegetation growth in Lake Maspinock. I think our group submitted a statement for you to review. And we commend the Lake Maspinock Vegetation Control and Management Group and the community group for all their hard work over 10 years. We just feel that in the toolbox that they're offering, we have an issue with the herbicide. The use of herbicide is short-sighted and not holistic. Things evolved. Herbicides now potentially can have formulations that involve per and poly fluoroalkaloid substances added to their formulations. So this is evolving now in our country, where we're reviewing the extent of the use of this compound. And the use of herbicides could potentially have this without a pretest, a fluorocarbon test. There's no way of knowing if it does or doesn't have. And the state is evolving its own regulation involving testing wastewater on this, but not pesticides yet. The state of Maine has, though. So Maine's moving on this, and they've identified it as an issue. So it's a concern that should be addressed because these are forever chemicals that do not break down. The other opposition we have to the use of herbicides, and again, we favor the toolbox. The toolbox has options for the community. And the company that offers services, the licensed company, has never negated that those other options cannot be used. So
2 minutes is over.
that's it. Thank you.
Hi, Joseph Baldiga, 65 Oakhurst Road on the lake, also the chair of the Citizen Input Group on the lake. I think we have a presentation later on, so I'm only going to take a minute, but I just want to make sure that this body is aware that those issues were thoroughly fleshed out by Concom, including the PFAS issue, which was completely discounted when we had the Concom meeting. And I don't know where that's coming from. Is that coming from me?
Sorry.
And that issue was thoroughly discounted. Concom voted unanimously in support of the herbicide proposal, fortunately. We're going to get more into that when the DPW is up there for their presentation. But these issues that are raised by the opposition have been thoroughly vetted, aired really to no end. There is no practical alternative for the area that we're talking about. The other tools in the toolbox simply aren't workable for the North Basin. So we'll be back in a little bit for the full presentation, but I just wanted to make sure that your committee is aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are 4 people on Zoom. I don't know if the room is up. 5 people.
You have one more in the room. After that, you can go to the Zoom. Please state your name and address.
Kyle Smith, 25 Amherst Road, just speaking in support of the use of herbicides for Lake Maspinock. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. People on Zoom.
Come on up.
Hi, Sarah Baldiga, 55 Oakhurst Road. I live on the lake and I swim in the lake, and I am in favor of the CIG and the Concom's recommendations to apply herbicides.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori Barnes. I'm a resident of the lake community at 23 Amherst Road. I've lived there for over 20 years. And I just want to, I
am in favor of treating the weeds with herbicides because I feel like we've thoroughly gone through all of the measures in the toolbox as presented. And my only point is that if right now, this is a spot treatment happening responsibly where the weeds are. And if this continues for years, it's going to be more than just spot treatment that we're dealing with. If we do nothing, it's going to be, the entire lake, possibly, if we continue for years and years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Baldiga, 67 Oakhurst, speaking in favor of the herbicides as well. The lake is a great resource, which now has very limited use during weed season, which unfortunately is much of the summer in terms of rowing, paddling, and things like that. So we all wish there were a better alternative. Unfortunately, there isn't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seth Kennedy, 110 Hayward Street. Just want to also support the use of herbicides. Similar reason to everybody else. If we're not doing something now, it's going to become unusable pretty soon, and that's kind of the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Crum, 12 Joseph Road. Sorry I'm going to interrupt the weeds for a second, although for the record, I have looked through their entire presentation already and look forward to listening to it again. I have a few quick things to point out and a request for the Select Board to take into consideration tonight. We're coming up on the 4-year mark since Police Chief Bennett's been appointed to his role, and there's a period of 6 months from August 22nd to February 23rd that should be of concern to residents. During these 6 months, and in this order, the following things happened. A former police sergeant was placed on administrative leave for following a reported allegation of rape. Muriel Kramer started to have concerns about the police chief's ability to perform in his role. An independent investigation into the actions surrounding the reported rape is completed and delivered to the town. That same month, the report was completed. Those reports were delivered. Sergeant Bennett's contract was then renewed for 3 years. It's important to note that the report with the chief's interview was never easily made publicly available. However, you can get it, and yes, I've read it. Assuming all 5 board members read that report also, I'm really at a loss for why the chief's contract would be extended for 3 years. The contract is only signed by then Chair Amy Ritterbusch, so I have no idea if everyone else has read it. Since I wasn't familiar with this type of contract, I compared Hopkinton's police chief contract to a handful of other towns, including Concord, Southborough, Wellesley, Westborough, and a few others. Hopkinton is very generous. We have the highest salary for a police chief. If you were to keep in mind that this contract negotiation happened alongside the infamous Kroll investigation and that his contract was finalized, may I have a few more minutes? Seconds? 30.
Finish up your time.
Okay. Following the completion of the investigation, it's just oddly ironic that the board would agree to include a policy that says we'd absolve our police chief from any responsibility of losses, whether legal claims are groundless or otherwise. It's just an odd way to reference that. It pretty much absolves him of anything. My request is simple. Whatever your decision is regarding the chief, please wait on appointing or promoting any other ranks. Those were supposed to be in place by May of 2023, so waiting 6 more months isn't going to harm the town any further.
Thank you. Please come on over.
Hi, Carol Essler, 16 Oakhurst Road, and speaking in opposition to the herbicides. We're forgetting several important things in the rush to have the lake free of nuisance weeds for human recreation. We live in a town where 173 species of animals and 259 species of plants are endangered. Our ecosystem is already stressed by climate change. There is no evidence that after using toxic chemicals, that the lake will be any less weedy in a few years. This is a temporary thing. There is strong scientific evidence that the soils will retain toxins for many years. Any killed weeds will sink to the bottom, continuing the cycle of too many nutrients that promote weed growth. There is no evidence that toxins cause the lake to become, as some have said, more balanced. There is not scientific proof of that. They are a temporary solution for human activity. I've done some research on hydroraking, one of the tools in the toolbox. These are smaller machines than dredging. And it would cost 7 or 8 times as much as applying the toxic substances. It would remove nutrients, the same ones we hope to mitigate with native lakeshore plantings, fertilizer restrictions, and better runoff control. Hand pulling could also be done more cheaply in various areas. In the 1990s, individual homeowners hired some hydroraking at their lakefronts. The process only lasts a few years, just like the herbicides, but in the long run, it removes some of the excess material and could improve lake health. Can I go a little bit longer? I have one more paragraph.
Please finish up. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
We don't know enough about the complex food chains or even what healthy native ecosystems can be. Let's respect nature and swim with weeds. This plan for toxics is neither sustainable nor green. The climate plan from Sustainable Green Committee, which I recently joined, talks about regenerating nature and native landscapes, not poisoning them. It is a matter of respecting nature for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are about 7 on Zoom.
A few on the Zoom.
Okay, why don't we go to Zoom? Sorry for being late, everybody.
So on the Zoom, we have Paula Toomey. I'm going the order that I'm seeing the hands. Paula, do you want to speak? Yep.
Yep. Hi, my name is Paula Toomey. I live at 16 Duffield Road. The secretary of the LMPCA board. I just want to say I'm in support of the weeds, the herbicide, on the use of herbicides on the weeds. But I also like to tell you, as somebody who, up until the past couple of years, was spent literally hours swimming laps around the lake, it's becoming downright dangerous. The weeds are growing closer and closer to the middle of the lake, which not only dangerous for any other people who swim or kayak, canoe, or use any of the stand-up boards. They're also in danger of being, hit by the boats. So I just wanted to let you know also that I am affiliated with a group of marathon swimmers who swim in many lakes around Massachusetts and in Maine, who have swam in lakes that have been spot treated for weeds over the past decade. And not one person has become ill or have come down with cancer. And I know that those are anecdotal tales, but I think that needs to be heard as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have Amy Grieber. Amy, can you speak up?
Yes, I just had to unmute. Just want to say that I am in favor of treating the lake with herbicides.
Mike Graber, also 56 Lakeshore Drive, in favor of the herbicides.
Thank you. Matt DiMarzo. Matt, unmute yourself and please speak up.
Yeah, this is Matt DiMarzo, 40 Downey Street. I just want to say that I am in favor of the herbicides for the lake.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else?
We have a lot of people. So Yvonne?
Yvonne? Thanks.
Yep, Yvonne Riley, 201 West Main Street. I am also pro herbicide. I swim in that lake all the time, and I just wanted to state that I'm pro herbicide. Thank you.
Sabine St. Pierre?
Sabine?
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Awesome. Sabine St. Pierre, 1 Woody Island. I just wanted to say I was in attendance at the select board meeting in January 2023 when the DPW and CIG presented their toolbox and their recommendations for herbicides to all of you. In the last few weeks, I've also attended the CIG meeting as well as conservation, where they made a similar presentation. But I just wanted to make a couple notes of some major differences that I noticed since the 2023 presentation to you. In comparison, the 2022 weed situation, now in 2023, this past summer, the overgrowth was significant. And I actually was out on the weed surveys for both years. And, obviously been out all summer and noticed it as well because we went another year untreated. The other major difference is that the Conservation Commission has also now recognized that it's dire and has unanimously voted for herbicide spot treatment. So there have been a couple members of that board that have, diligently resisted the herbicides because of personal views, but based on all the research this committee has done, and I know Carol referenced that this is a rush to herbicides, but it has been by far a rush. They've been working on this since 2015. So they've turned over every stone, every possibility. And now, along with the unanimous vote from Conservation, this group also has gained the additional support of the Board of Health, if you saw that at the Conservation meeting. So nobody's jumping up and down about this proposal. Nobody is pro-herbicide, but it's a last resort. And last resorts are used when everything else has been exhausted. And as you heard in 2023, and we'll hear again tonight, this group has worked diligently and with fidelity and have documented everything along the way, and it's available for public consumption. I know that the CIG has made this proposal with the health of the lake at the heart and soul of their decision. So this was my long way of saying that I am in support of spot treating this spring.
Thanks,
Thank
Sabine.
you.
So Matt already spoke. So there's someone without a name, 17816.
17816. Phone number?
Hi, my name is Dr. Garber. I've spent my 30-year career in medicine studying drug safety and patient harm. When you look at the herbicides that they're trying to use for the lake, I can tell you that it's safe, effective, and in the long run, not dangerous at all for the lake or for human consumption. And I would say that, in the long run, if we do not treat the herbicides with herbicides, what we're looking at is a lake death, right? So I would strongly favor the use of herbicides, and I think that we should definitely do this.
Did we get the address on that one?
What's your address, sir? Thank you.
Sorry, 9 Lakeshore Drive. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom?
Yep. Renz Hayes?
Renz?
Hi, this is Renz Hayes from 20 Downey Place. To reiterate a lot of the things people have said today, Sabine said it well, Joe, Jamie Gonzalez, we are in support of treating the weeds in the lake with herbicide. It's been a long time issue, and I've been around the lake for more than 20 years, property owner for 10, and it's worse than it's ever been, and it's getting worse exponentially year over year. So treating it definitely seems urgent, and thanks for reconsidering.
Thank you.
Is it Danielle Handler?
Danielle? Or Daniel? Sorry.
It's Danielle.
Danielle, perfect.
I'm at 26 Twin Island Road, and we are in favor of treating with herbicides. I have grown up on this lake and now live here as an adult, and my cove goes out into the North Basin, and when we take a boat out, we have to constantly be cleaning our engine of those weeds. So I am in favor, and it is very much in need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey McDonald?
Corey?
Hi, this is Corey MacDonald, 45 Woody Island Road. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, so I've lived on the lake since 1996. If you know where 45 Woody Island is, it looks right over the North Basin. I've spent the majority of my time since on the lake in the last 25 years on the North Basin. The weeds have gotten unbelievably out of control. recreational use in the North Basin is pretty much not doable anymore. No one wants to swim, fish, wakeboard, ski, tube, anything out there because of the weeds. You have to constantly clean off your propeller. It's just become unusable, unfortunately. And it's really a shame. When I was, as a young adult, fishing and recreation on the North Basin, it was awesome. And it's not there anymore. It's become choked out. And doing nothing is no longer an option. Something needs to be done. Herbicides, unfortunately, are our best option right now. I'm supportive of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, Nancy Glassman.
Nancy?
Hi, Nancy and Stuart Glassman, 21 Twin Island Road, and we're totally in support of the use of herbicide on the lake. The time has come. We just keep kicking a dead horse, and we're ready for this. We need to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Golden.
James? Jay?
Hi, this is Shannon and James Golden, 7 Hillcrest Drive. We are in support of treating the lake.
Danielle Pepe.
Danielle?
Or, sorry, Diane, I'm sorry, Diane.
Oh, Diane, sorry. Diane, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Muted.
My apologies, we're going to have to move on.
I'm good.
Okay.
Now, here I am. I've been on the 1969. My name is Kathy. I'm at 54 Downey Street. And in the early 70s, the lake was treated. We had a little bit of fish kill. There wasn't much of anything. I've raised two children on this lake. I'm pretty healthy for my age, and I'm in support of the weeds. Thank you, and let's hurry up with this.
All right.
Let's see. The next one was, it's not a name, FGL3.
FGL3?
Yeah, I guess that's me, Ron Atkinson, 75 Crockett Road. I've been on the lake for 35 years, and the weeds have definitely have been the worst, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years. So we definitely need to do something. However, I do agree with earlier caller that it's likely going to be a temporary solution, and the weeds are going to return. And I think we need a long-term solution of either continual herbicides and/or some program of raking the weeds. So anyhow, I guess my comment is it's going to be a temporary solution. It's going to return.
Okay, thank you. I know that I'm late to this meeting, but I know that the public comment period has gone on quite a long time. Can I recommend, unless if people have some, opposing position, I think we've heard from the supporters. Is it okay if we move on? Okay. I think we're going to take our next order of business is the consent agenda. So the consent agenda will consider the following items: minutes from March 6th. I guess that's it, minutes from March 6th. So I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We were next supposed to have the mid-year goals evaluations. I heard just before the meeting that the chief is not able to be here. So I am asking the board how you want to proceed.
Through the chair, I would suggest we move to the next meeting.
Just keep it on the next meeting schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's critical that we do this.
I do too.
And we can't keep kicking it down, so I'd say the next meeting.
Okay.
I agree. The chief needs to be here, and then we'd have a conversation together.
Yep, and it has to happen.
And we had new documents received today, so they could be in the packet for next time.
Yep. So do we meet next week? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit.
Yes.
It's becoming a thing. Okay, so we will need to speak to this issue somehow next week, but it is our hope that the chief will be here when we do. Next item of business is annual town meeting and special town meeting. Mr. Kamalo.
Yes, we included the draft town meeting warrant in the packet, and we, as we've done in past meetings, inviting comments from the board. If you have any questions regarding any specific articles, please share your questions now.
Does anybody have any questions on the annual town meeting or the special town meeting articles?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to kind of touch on the previous decision that we made. I heard the chief is on FMLA. Is that certain when that ends, or is it going to be next week? I just want to
I think we can't discuss
check if you
personnel.
have.
We definitely can't discuss that.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, I understand the question totally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And appreciate it, but we can't interact with it.
Okay.
Annual town meeting and special town meeting. Any questions?
I guess I'm wondering if there will be any additional articles for a special town meeting.
When is the deadline?
The deadline's very soon, right?
4th is the deadline.
The 4th. And do we have article?
The 3 that were presented to the board by staff.
Yep, and no additional ones so far?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Let that be a trend.
I did want to note that tentatively scheduling for the next meeting, the public forum on the general bylaw changes that we have on the schedule.
That will be when?
Next meeting.
Next week.
Okay, and we'll send out a press release or something about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Okay. And you don't need any particular action from us tonight? Okay. The Department of Public Works and the Lake Maspinock Weed Management and Control Advisory Group update is next.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So I'm Carrie Reed, the Director of the Public Works, and I have here Joe Baldiga.
Joe Baldiga, yep, thank you.
The Chair of the Lake Maspinock Weed Management Citizen Advisory Group. And we're here tonight to give you an update on the plans for lake management for this year and just do a little bit of outreach and public involvement, as you've seen so far. So we have a short presentation, although we know you all are very familiar with it. We just thought that this would be helpful to give a background. Great, awesome. So we can go to the next one. Right, so just for a short, I'm trying to do the Cliff Note version of the background. Lake Maspinock is a man-made lake. It was formed by a dam in 1834, as you can see. The town of Hopkinton purchased that dam in 2006, at which point the town had gotten a lot more involved in overall lake management. As a result of that, at the annual town meeting.
For $1.
For $1, great bargain. So in 2015, as part of the plan for lake management, the Public Works went to the annual town meeting with the operating budget that included a proposed herbicide treatment, at which point there was considerable amount of debate back and forth, and the annual town meeting proposed an amendment at that time to change the funding so that it wouldn't be used for herbicide, but be used to make a lake management plan. And then another amendment was passed to have the plan managed by the select board. And at that point, the select board created the Lake Maspinock Weed Management Citizen Advisory Group, also sometimes called the Citizen Input Group, CIG. So they've been around for about 10 years. They work together to put together the Comprehensive Weed Management Control Plan, which is available on our website and was approved by the select board in 2016. And then since then has been conducting annual weed surveys with the help of a certified limnologist. So we have about 10 years worth of data to support the observations that folks have been making. So you've also heard a lot about permitting through the Conservation Commission. So Public Works went before the Conservation with a notice of intent in 2020. asking for herbicide treatment, at which point it was denied. I believe the vote was 4-3 at the time, with one of the findings being that the Conservation Commission wanted to see more of an alternative analysis and make sure that they were looking at all the different possible options and making sure that we came up with the best one. So taking that to heart, the Citizen Advisory Group went back, updated the management plan, looked at several options, and then in 2022 came back again with a notice of intent for the Conservation Commission with this, what everybody's referring to as a toolbox, so several alternatives. And one of the conditions, at which point it was voted, I believe it was 5-0 with one abstaining at the time, to approve the order of conditions with this toolbox, with the Public Works having to come before the Conservation Commission each year to propose what we plan to do for management of the lake that year. And so we did that last week. And they approved the proposed use of herbicide in addition to the regular drawdown and some of the local aspects. So that's how we got here today. All right, what do we got next? So this is just a visual reminder of what we're seeing out there. I also want to point out that it is a mix of native and invasive species. And as we've been talking about, when we have the annual weed management surveys, we've been seeing an increase in density and also in diversity. All right, next slide, please. So this is just to show that there has been a considerable amount of public engagement, both by the volunteers who have done an amazing job past years, on both sides, in the local newspaper, on websites, through public meetings. I think there's been a lot of effort to try to make people feel like they have a chance to be involved and to provide their opinions like they did today. All right, next slide, please. These are both in your background, but just to go over, we do have a full toolbox that was approved by the Conservation Commission. We've done a full analysis on what we think would work and what wouldn't work. The Public Works preferred method is still an extended drawdown, which seems to be successful if the weather cooperates, and is very well received by the public and by abutters. Unfortunately, that has not been successful in the last couple of years. It was completely reliant on extended cold periods of time. So if you don't get that weather, it doesn't work. And you will hear from the folks on the lake that said maybe it was 5 or 6 years ago that
2016
was last time it was very, successful. So it's not reliable, but the DPW does plan to continue to do that. So the order of conditions allows us to do the extended drawdown every 3 years. It was last done in 2022, and we do plan to do that next year if allowed. But herbicide treatment is what we are proposing this year based on the recommendations and the findings and everything like that. So the next slide, which is in your background information, is just a variety of the question comes then, what have you done and what has worked? And so we've tried a lot of things out there. The only thing that we haven't tried that was in the toolbox was mechanical harvesting, and it's not the most cost-effective way. And we have been advised by the limnologists and others that it wouldn't be effective on the weeds that we have, and there's concerns about what it would create and spreading. But and that's it. What's my next slide? Oh. So here's an overview of the proposed treatment. As we said, it would be in the North Basin. It would be a spot treatment. The types of herbicides, the tribune and aquathol, and I probably pronounced them incorrectly anyway. The dosing and the combination is based on an evaluation of the data that we've had and experience that the company's had in different places, and what we think would be most effective, where we could use the smallest dose most efficiently. So that's why it's a combination. Some people have asked why one and not the other, and why this combination was chosen. They are both approved by Mass DEP and EPA. And we have all the safety data sheets and all that information. We will have a safety plan. We have several different things that we have to do to apply with the Conservation Commission order conditions, including pre and post surveys. We'll have to submit to them a more detailed once we do that. But right now, this is our plan, and the hope is to have this herbicide treatment in early June, because that's when we think we'll get that perfect balance of when the weeds will start to grow up. We can observe what we can and have the most effect from the herbicide treatment. But again, this will be a spot treatment. It's not blanket application, and it will be focused on this area, and we'll be able to narrow it down. And we will put the information out, which I think is our next slide. outreach. So the intent is to keep everybody informed. The LMPA has been great. The advisory group has been great about getting information out. We will use several different methods. We will have signs up and around the lake. We will use a press release. We'll try to use social media and everything like that to let people know. The herbicide is considered a safe herbicide. It dissipates very quickly, so there are limited restrictions, if any, to err on the side of safety. We're going to put up these signs and recommend that folks don't swim in the water when it's applied, but it's not required. And that is all I got.
Thank you. And I'll just be brief. Joe Baldiger, the chair of the Citizen Advisory Group. So we got good news and bad news, right? So the bad news is that the drawdown yet again was ineffective this year. Obviously, we had a warm winter. We moved on to the lake in 2016. That was the last year that we had an effective drawdown. We just need lengthy cold periods. Sadly, we're not getting those. And it's not just a fluke, right? We haven't gotten them since 2016. So we have to come up with some alternative. The good news is that we finally, after a thorough vetting of the issues that everybody's concerned about, that CONCOM has endorsed and supported now the herbicide approach. We do have the toolbox, right? And there's other tools that we can use. But the weeds are worse in the North Basin. And in the North Basin, the mechanical harvesting is just not feasible. That's the problem. And the hydro raking alternative that was suggested tonight, which was also bantered about at length at the CONCOM meeting, is a form of mechanical harvesting. And the town limnologist responded to that at the CONCOM meeting, saying that there are now increased restrictions on the hydro raking because it actually digs down into the sediment, and there are now more restrictions that are being imposed by DEP because that hurts the ecology of the lake. So hydro raking is just a form of mechanical harvesting. It's probably even more intrusive than just mowing the tops of the weeds off, and it's not practical for the North Basin. So CONCOM, as you know, has been concerned about herbicides since we started proposing them, almost a decade ago. Even they now have endorsed the herbicide proposal, spot treatment in the North Basin, unanimously. So, and that was not an easy task to get them to accomplish. And I will just remind this body that your chair commented when we were here back in January of last year that this body doesn't have a formal vote on this, right? That's what CONCOM is set up for. I'm not saying that you're unable to weigh in on this, but the good news as well is that we're not coming to you looking for a vote. We do want your support, at least recognition that this is an issue that has to be addressed, but there's no formal vote required by your body, at least not that I've heard, and I think your chair commented on that last time. I'm hoping that when we come back here in January or February or March of next year, right, a year from now, that we're able to report more good news, that the spot treatment of the herbicides, which is going to be tried for the first time since the 70s, has taken effect, and that there is a demonstrable difference in the extent of the weed growth in the North Basin. Let's all hope that's the case. And anytime that we want to apply herbicides, right, we have to go back to CONCOM each time. It's not like, we try once, we never have to go back for approvals. We can just throw more herbicides in year after year. We have to go in front of them every time we want to do this. So we got their approval. We're going to try it once, hopefully with your support. Hopefully it takes effect, and we can start on the path to restoring the balance. So, thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, through the chair. How is the herbicide actually applied to an aquatic weed? I mean, you're in water.
So my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that they would use a boat, an applicator, try to apply it close to towards the bottom of the weed, and then it tracks to the weed itself, and it interrupts the photosynthesis of the weed. So it would, in my mind, I'm picturing like a wand that gets applied and it distributes the herbicide in the areas where we see vegetation growth.
In a very limited extent. You heard some discussion tonight or some concern expressed about there being weeds accumulated in the sediment. It's very low dosage. We're talking about a couple gallons, maybe, of this combination spread over per acre. So it's a very limited extent. It's studied at length about how much of that accumulates in the soil. It really, I'm not a scientist, but we're told it doesn't, that it disperses. It's very low dosage. It's applied right where the weeds are starting to grow. That's why you got to whack it in the end of May, early June period, and that's how it's dispersed. So yes, picture one. That's how I picture it as well.
So, I mean, so it doesn't get diluted by being in water?
I mean, it will, but it's an aquatic herbicide, so it's designed to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they are certified applicators, so the company they would have is certified, and they would have to get approval and permitted by DEP before they apply their plan.
Okay. And is there any kind of plan for boaters when they want to go into the lake to check the boat for, weed seed before it goes in?
I'll let you.
So there's a couple good things, right? One is we've gotten increasingly strict, and this is really, Jamie's still here. Maybe he's the one to speak to this. But the Lake Association and Sandy Beach has a lot of restrictions now, right? It's only Hopkinton residents, and we have been getting out the education. I believe there's increased signage. We don't have the ability, and you heard this, I think, last year. We don't have the ability, like some bigger lakes, to add, and I think we talked about Newfound Lake up in New Hampshire. It's wonderful with these big lakes that have a lot of resources. They have washing stations and inspection stations. We don't have that ability or capability, but we are trying to get the education out there. We're limiting the permits for boats to town residents and things, and we're really trying to stress that in the increased signage. So we're trying to reinforce that stop with the migration of weeds from somewhere else to here.
All right.
So it's a good question, and it's a concern everybody on the lake has. So thank you.
In general, I think, we definitely have a problem at hand, and that's lingering, so we need to solve for it. But we need to solve for it, in the most unharmful way, of course. So a few questions on that is there any known harm to the whole water ecosystem because of such applications that have been found or scientifically proven that you are aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, any kind of herbicide chemical has risks, but that's why we've taken steps. They'll be applied, using the safety requirements. It dissipates pretty quickly. It is approved by DEP and EPA to be used as directed, so not significantly. And it's used by other communities. It's used by DCR. You've heard other folks talking without considerable negative effects.
And as a good indicia, the restrictions are very limited. Kerry had a slide up there talking about, how long you have to stay out of the lake. I mean, it's very limited, right? As in a day or two, you can't use the water from the lake for a few days to irrigate farmland or something, right? Because you don't want. But other than that,
it says 7 days in our packet.
restrictions are very limited.
Yeah, restrictions, and we did follow up with, the Board of Health or the Health Department, about concerns about drinking water sources, as you said, use for other landscaping, or fish and wildlife. There was no concerns considerably for that.
Thank you.
Or that haven't been addressed and mitigated in other ways.
And someone commented already about the Board of Health appeared at the Concom, had a lot of responses to the questions, and was firmly in support, which I think helped to carry the day with Concom. So,
Thank you. And it looks like you have a good communication plan, because that will be important too and critical. How many days and what are the activities that are not going to be allowed to happen, things of that sort.
Yeah.
This other question I had was, how confident are you about the effectiveness and the result that we are expecting?
100% guaranteed. I-
That's what we're gonna hear.
You know, we wouldn't be going through all this if we didn't think it was going to have some effect. It's the first time we're trying it, so there better be some effect. I don't know if you want to answer that in more depth.
We think it'll be effective, but it's, as everybody said, it's a temporary thing. We have to take a watershed approach and improve overall water quality and have more responsive users of the lake and more responsible. But so it's a combined effort that has already been put into effect for the last 10 years since the advisory group was formed, and with support from the LMPA that's been around for much longer than that. So there's no one thing that's caused this issue, and there's no one thing that's going to fix it. But these are all tools that we're trying to get to, the intended results.
Right, and Jamie, the president of the LMPA, made this point at the Concom meeting, which is, we're not going to apply these herbicides and it's going to create, I think he used the word, like a desert. It's not going to be just this, perfectly sandy, weedless atmosphere. And we're not looking for that, right? We're trying to restore the balance so that, of course, there's going to still be weeds. They're just not going to be all-consuming, right? They're not going to be clogging the lake up. So it's going to be restoring the balance. It's not going to be creating a desert where there's no growth, no fish. Still going to be plenty of weeds in the lake.
No, understood. My question was more because, and you touched on it, how sustainable the solution is going to be. We don't want it to come back and have this conversation 2 years later again after application, and then 5 years later again. And pretty soon it's going to, where I'm going is if we apply it on a regular basis or have to apply, then it's a larger ecosystem and chemical intoxication challenge potentially, right? So that's where I was leading with that generally from, what you have seen and heard and from EPA and other guidelines, do you see it applied, and then if we maintain it, and that also means we'll need to take the accountability and the responsibility to maintain it to a level that we feel we can continue with the outcome that we'll get in a reasonable way. Of course, when it comes to nature, nothing is 100%. So what is your plan post this to maintain it? And then any information you can share about the recurrence to the level where we would have to talk about reapplying?
So we are going to do pre and post surveys to kind of evaluate the effectiveness. We will do it again next year. Our plan next year is to do it again, a drawdown, and hopefully that will work. So I think we're going to reevaluate each year. I mean, if we get a wetter year, the weeds get worse. If we have a dry, cold year, they're better. So there's so many different variables, but we have a consistent plan where we evaluate it every year. We have data. We do a comparison. We have the professionals. And so we'll just continue to do that. The intent is not to continue the herbicide treatment every year, but there's a recognition that we might have to do it on every so often just to kind of get back to a state that we find acceptable.
Right.
But that's going to be controlled by other conditions, right?
Yeah.
If we do, we would love nothing more than to have the extended drawdown work. So the plan is hopefully this gets us started down the right path. We can't predict, next year what the conditions are going to be like.
Right. No, I totally understand. My thinking is, and this is a homework maybe for all of us, which is that once we apply this, we solve the immediate problem and the larger problem, because it's otherwise alternatives are not going to be able to manage it to the extent we want, not going to be feasible, practical, or cost effective. But then how can we not only monitor it on a yearly basis, but do other alternative things maybe from the toolbox or others that will not allow us to reach to this threshold like ever again? That is doable. Like, it's like weed in your backyard, right? Once you have it like a jungle, it'll take a while to clean it up. But once you do that, it depends on how well you are in maintaining it and keeping it there. So that's the plan I think we should all also focus on along with it.
Part of the difficulty is you've heard a lot talking about, like, we're trying to educate people around the lake to use the right or no
Zero fertilizers.
Right? Fertilizers and things like that.
Zero fertilizers.
But the watershed, right, for this lake, so, because we've looked at that, right? I mean, you're getting water pouring into this lake from as far away as School Street. So, and it's, we have a more difficult time. It's easy to reach the folks around the lake, right? The LMPA is very active on reaching out to those people, keeping the list current, making sure mailings go out and email communications, and we talk about it at the annual meeting and things, right? It's a little more difficult to talk to people up on School Street and say, you got to restrict or stop using fertilizer because it's going right through my yard into Lake Maspinock. That's a little harder to sell that. But those, we have to continue with those education efforts. That's a town-wide education effort, right? Not just for this lake, but for the water basin for Whitehall and, for all the water bodies.
Kids and your pets who play in your yard. All right, off my soapbox.
Thank you. So we're with you. It's a continuing process.
Questions to my right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I guess I hear all your reasoning and everything, but it's just really disappointing that you might have to do the herbicides. But it does sound like you've tried everything, so I understand that. I guess I hope that we can continue to do the extended drawdown, like you're saying, the next year, and other methods like the hand harvesting and the Bethnic barriers in the other areas, so that hopefully we can minimize the use of herbicide. I guess what concerns me a little bit the most, I think, is in the slideshow there was a warning that's going to be posted for 7 days that people can't use the lake for boating, fishing, and swimming for 7 days. I think that's going to be really hard to enforce, and the people won't be aware of that. So, anyways, I'm worried about that people won't know, because I'm always shocked how much people don't pay attention to everything in town. There would be 200 comments on Facebook about Domino's, and then somebody will come up to me, did you know there's a Domino's? Yeah, there were hundreds of comments about it a couple weeks ago, or a month ago, and people don't know. So people don't pay attention, so anything you can do to really make sure they know, because I wouldn't want my kids, swimming in the lake, and if you don't live near the lake, you might not know.
That's the plan, right?
Well, I want to compliment you people because I've seen this happen. I was the assessor in a town south of here that they always, nature will take care of it, nature will take care of it, and they lost their whole South Basin to weeds. They're now way taller than I am, and they've come together in the bottom, and there's no longer even any water except that it's a little wet. And the problem with that is that we had to reduce the values on that South Basin because there was no use, no lake view, no use of the lake, no nothing, and it was because of vegetation took that part of the lake over. Now the rest of the lake, there's boating and swimming and it's beautiful, so they are lakefront property, but this whole area, much like this North Basin, it was their South Basin, is gone. Absolutely gone. I know it's taken a lot of years, but if anybody wants to take a ride down there, I will be glad to, because the weeds and the grass and everything that's growing in that basin is way taller than I am. And the roots have all come together, and there's almost no water even left in there. So it's just a damp, boggy mess. And there's another lake in the same town that now they're beginning to say, oh, look what happened here. Now we've got to do something about it, but they haven't yet, and they're having real problems now with that other lake. So I am glad to see that Hopkinton is trying to be really proactive on this, and nature does not take care of everything. That's all I can say.
I had one more thought, that I forgot. But maybe for a future item, maybe we or the Board of Health could consider some fertilizer restrictions in town, or recommendations, or better publicity that people shouldn't be using those on their yards if they're anywhere near the lake, even if the runoff from their street comes down to the lake. Maybe we could publicize or restrict that more, but that would be a future meeting.
Yeah, an educational campaign too, because fertilizers and treatments on your lawn can be very toxic for a lot of reasons. So it's a good idea all the way around to encourage people. I know that I practice tough love on my lawn. My grass has to want to live. Mostly I came to that because we have our own private well, and our neighbors all have private wells, and and I had a bunch of little kids and pets, and I didn't see any benefit into regular applications of chemicals that I wasn't willing to research to that extent. So I really want to congratulate everybody involved for the hard work that has gone into this. I know it has been it's been a marathon, not a sprint. I know that I feel the energy in the room. Everybody who lives on the lake loves the lake, and they would, I guarantee you, if you took a poll, probably you said it before I got here, people would love to be able to manage the weeds without using the herbicides every time. And I appreciate that it's going to need to be, vetted each time it gets done, so it doesn't just become a habit. And the educational campaign, I think, is really important, right? What everybody can do to maintain the healthy ecology of the lake, I think, makes an awful lot of sense, and certainly even around town. But appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the hard work. I have a reluctance towards chemical treatment, but I also believe in science. But I prefer, the approach that we're way more cautious than we are quick to do this. So I appreciate the hard work. And good luck. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next item of business is the fiscal year 2023 audit report. Yes.
This gentleman who was looking for an answer about the police report. In the last meeting?
I reached out, but I don't think I heard anything. Let's check.
I thought I recognized that bag.
One question, Jamie. It's all right.
Jamie Gonzalez, 92 Downing Street again. So right now we have to get the contract for the company that's going to do the application. You want me to sign out? How does that work?
Oh, I don't know how that works. That's a great question. Is there? I don't know the logistics of putting that together.
Jamie, we can talk offline.
Thank you.
So, and let me know if I need to help.
All right, appreciate it. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. Welcome.
Good evening, honorable members of the Select Board, Town Manager Marlowe, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Terenzio Volpicelli. I'm a certified public accountant and representative of the firm Roselli Clark & Associates, certified public accountants, with offices in Woburn and Hopedale, Massachusetts. We were engaged on May 23rd, 2023 to complete an audit of your financial statements. This was a financial statement audit, not a forensic audit. This was the first of a 3-year engagement. We have provided to you what's referred to as our required communications letter dated March 22nd, which you already have in front of you. I will not bore you with the content of that because you do have the full content, but happy to go through that if you would like. More importantly, we issued a clean or unmodified audit opinion on the town's financial statements on March 11th, 2024. Additionally, a single audit was filed shortly thereafter with the Federal Clearinghouse, and that is a specific audit to your federal boards. So everything was completed on time. Your financial advisors have all those files and all been incorporated in what's referred to as your continuing disclosures well in advance of the due date, which is this upcoming Sunday. The financial statements themselves are roughly 60 pages, or actually exactly 60 pages rather, and they consist of a number of components. The first section is what's referred to as the government-wide financial statements. That is a depiction of what the town's financial condition and results of operations would look like on what's referred to as a full accrual basis, similar to, say, a company like EMC. The next section is what's referred to as our governmental funds financial statements. That is modified accrual basis, and that most closely resembles the internal accounting records that you all maintain. We have what's referred to as the proprietary fund financial statements, which are for your water and sewer funds. Those are your enterprise funds, and those are also kept on full accrual, again, similar to a private entity. Then we have what's referred to as the fiduciary funds, for which the lion's share is your OPEB trust. You do have some modest, what's referred to as private purpose trusts, very modest. But the lion's share of that is your OPEB trust. In addition to that, there are the notes to the financial statements, and then what's referred to as our required supplementary information, which is MD&A that precedes the financial statements, certain schedules with respect to pension and OPEB, and then finally a budget to actual comparison based on statutory figures. In terms of budgetary to actual, on a statutory basis, revenues exceeded budget by nearly $5.6 million in fiscal '23, while expenses were under budget by nearly $3.6 million. Very healthy year. Within your governmental funds, you will have noticed last year we started breaking out the ARPA fund as a major governmental fund. ARPA was established in 2022 as a major fund just through the gap hierarchy, it qualified that way. And as of June 30th, 2023, there was $5.4 million of unspent ARPA funds. I'd like to take a moment just to discuss with this board the timing of ARPA. Those funds must be fully obligated by December 31st of this year. An obligation under the current guidelines issued by the U.S. Treasury is either the funds were expended or they've been formally obligated through a purchase order or a contract. So a plan by this board or a subcommittee on how to use these funds does not constitute obligation. Very, very important. The way that this fund, the way that this federal grant was set up, that they do need to be formally obligated, either purchase order, or contract, or heck, the money's out the door. So please be careful with that, because you hate to have to turn back those funds.
Yeah.
You do have 2 years to expend any of those unspent funds. So let's say you were entered into some sort of long-term contract in December, you would have 2 years to actually expend the monies.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you have the number? How much is it for now?
As of June 30th, you had $5.4 million. The actual hard number can be found on page...
Approximately is fine.
15 of 60. $5,349,000. Overall for the year, your fund balance, again, in the governmental funds, increased slightly year over year to about $62.7 million. You had reported increases in your general fund, your CPA, and what's referred to as your non-major funds, and those were offset by an $8.1 million decrease in your capital projects funds. You had a number of significant capital projects, including some projects at the Marathon Elementary School, the Fruit Street turf field, a number of other school projects, as well as some DPW work out front. The general fund reported about $2.4 million of investment income in 2024, which is a real sharp increase from the year before. So you folks were very, very smart in the way you were investing your funds. In fact, at the end of the year, you had about $52 million invested with the MMDT, which is the state's investment fund. And I just took a peek at that today. Today, that fund is yielding 5.55%. So it is quite a robust fund. Debt for the year decreased about $6.1 million to about $73 million. $63 million of that is general debt that's supported by the taxpayers. The other $10 million is from the ratepayers of your water and sewer fund, and it's almost evenly split 5 and 5 between water and sewer. Some of your largest liabilities pertain to pension and your OPEB. With respects to pension, you're a member of the Middlesex County Retirement System, so you get an annual assessment. You really don't have any control over that. At December 31st of 2022, they were 58% funded. By statute, they are required to be fully funded by June 30th of 2040. And so they've developed a funding schedule for all of their participating employers to get to that 100% funded ratio by that time. If you take a look at year over year, the funding ratio had come down because Middlesex County retirement system is measured on a calendar basis. And calendar 22, there was negative investment returns. Calendar 2023, we would expect it to be anywhere from 10.8% to 11% gain based on the composition of their investments. Now, way too early to tell, but based on similar invested assets, it's anywhere between 10.8 to 11% return would be somewhat expected.
Thank you. Quick question, if I may.
Yes.
What is our projected timeline now? It used to be 2075 at some point, then it came down to 20.
So can you repeat yourself?
The projected timeline to have OPEB fully funded for our town, do you have the year?
That I don't have handy.
Okay. No, that's fine. Yep.
Yes, there is, right now, your OPEB is roughly 11% funded, which actually places you quite well within the state based on your size of your community. That would probably a question better served for Dr. Elmore, your actuary.
We had it on our financial report, I just don't have top of my head. But the reason I was asking is, you're right, I mean, I think we are above median right now out of the 341 towns, so we're in a better shape than before.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Parker, who's your actuary, does roughly a third of your state, so I would say he has a pretty good representative sample when he's taking a look at your funding versus everybody else.
Thank you.
So again, once again, you read my next line, you're 11% funded at this point in time. You came into fiscal 24 with a number of reserves. Your free cash, which was certified a couple months ago, at about $9.6 million. Your general stabilization had about $4 million. And then there was a series of other, other pension stabilization specific specified stabilizations which were roughly $2.6 million.
Quick question on that, if I may.
Yes.
And sorry to interrupt, but I think this is fascinating, the various insights you're projecting on. I'm just curious to understand, based on your breadth of exposure to various audits, the 9.5% free cash, is that for the budget of 110 million-ish that we have, is that normal, or is that out of the kind of
That's a very difficult
median?
Benchmarking what free cash is one town to another is not an easy thing to
Sure.
do. It fluctuates greatly. Nantucket has a really, really large number. It really depends. It really depends. The city of Marlboro's number isn't that high, but they have a $45 million excess levy capacity. It's
They're different.
It is tough to benchmark that one.
Okay, sure.
That's essentially the accumulation of very positive results, and you build a school, that money might disappear quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Funny that you should mention that. Funny that you brought that up. But also, just for the public too, free cash is really money in hand. Excess levy capacity is money you're allowed to take from the voters. So it's a very different thing that we're talking about.
Yeah. And free cash is unspent money, essentially.
It's been certified that this was essentially these are your retained earnings that is unencumbered by any other means that can be used at the discretion of the governing body, which in your case is town meeting.
Correct. And it was appropriated but not used. The reason I'm asking is that is also an indication if we have too much free cash, do we need to fine-tune our planning so that we invest in the right spots? Otherwise, it's not always good to have a huge amount of free cash where you are starving some departments or some areas where we actually need to invest and support with the budget. That's why my question was that. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
There'll be taxpayer advocates who have another perspective of that also.
Sure.
It's a balance, yeah.
And then lastly, again, just speaking to the investment rates, you are heavily invested, or at least as of June 30th, in the MMDT. As of today, was a 5.5% yield. The 5-year T-bill as of this afternoon is about 4.232%. So the returns in fiscal '24, I would expect to be, again, robust, and that will contribute almost dollar for dollar for free cash, because I didn't take a look at your 2024 budget, but I'd be shocked if you had that much budgeted for investment income, because that's such a variable. It's generally budgeted quite conservatively, which is appropriate.
Yeah, I think we do conservative too.
Yes, we do.
Knowing team, I'm sure we have a very disciplined and good practice in our finance. So I'm happy about that.
That essentially concludes the formal part of my presentation, and so I'm just available for any questions, comments, or concerns at this point.
Does, Mary Jo, do you have any questions?
Not really, no, I don't.
Amy?
I'm not sure if they're for the auditor or maybe for the town manager, but the ARPA balance that we have, that we haven't spent, do we have to spend that by a certain amount of time?
2 years.
So when will we?
It has to be fully obligated by December 31st.
This year.
Okay.
Yes.
Spent by 12/31/26.
Okay. So do we have a plan to do that?
Yeah, through the chair, let me answer that question as well as the question that was asked regarding OPEB. Yes, we have a specific plan as to how we'll obligate those funds.
Okay. So we won't be in danger of losing it then? Okay.
Elaine has clear instructions.
Okay.
And for the
Yeah.
most part, you can use it for most general, I say most, general government. There, follow the guidance. You can't use it for extraordinary pension payments, can't use it for debt service, to pay a legal settlement. There are a number of no-nos there, but for the most part, it's very flexible, much more flexible than, let's say, the CARES Act.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for
the other question.
Some restrictions.
our water, big water projects, right? Or infrastructure projects.
Correctly, we have discussed applying the $5.4 million towards the MWRA project. However, as I stated earlier, we have a plan as to how we'll protect those funds.
Great.
The other question was when, based on the November 2023 actuarial evaluation of our OPEB, the town is projected to be fully funded in the year 2052.
Close.
Nice, nice.
So
Hold on, I'm just going to see if Amy wants to finish. Are you all set?
No, I think that's it.
It's
yeah.
related, so
I guess-
I'll wait.
Yeah.
And I'll just
No,
point
it's
out for
okay.
the public that these documents are now all on the town website for anybody who wants to read through. It's a 62-page document, but if you want to look through, feel free. It's all there.
Good news in there. Go ahead.
My first question is related to Amy's question. That's why I was going on, so we can use the same time to discuss the same when we are on the same topic. But I'll resurface that, which is the fund we were talking about. Are we obligated to, I heard we are obligated to appropriate it by December or spend it by December?
Either appropriate, either purchase order, it has to be obligated or spent.
What does obligated mean? Appropriated or spent?
Appropriated would infer that town meeting takes an action. This is not subject to town meeting. So it needs to be obligated. So if the money has already been spent for a project, obviously it's gone. Or it needs to be a formal purchase order or contract.
Okay.
A binding purchase order, binding contract. Or you spent the money because
Yeah, it's done. It's been done.
Got it. Yep, thank you. So coming back to my question was, in general, based on your whole report, and thank you for the insightful, thorough analysis, what do you see as some of the areas we can do better, and some of the areas I heard, of course, and it's more about our continuous improvement effort perspective. I have full confidence how we do our budgeting, financials, and all our accounting. And we have become better and better, and I think we have done a tremendous job. Thanks to everyone. I keep saying that we finished our balanced budget and everything by end of January this year, which was the first time in decades almost. So I'm very confident that we have pretty good grip on our financials, but I'm also always looking for opportunities to improve and see where we can do things better. So do you have any suggestions, if you want to give like your top 3 observations that we should do, or we can take opportunity of doing better?
The thing that keeps me up at night is the technology security. Ransomware attacks that involves employee education. Don't click on this, click on that. That's what actually keeps me up at night, that a client is going to get caught. We did spend some time with the folks here on phishing scams to identify some of the common traits that we're seeing out there and to be aware of these types of red flags that are out there. So especially with a newly appointed treasurer, because unfortunately it's the Treasury Department that's really going to get hit because they're the ones who control the money. So we did spend some time talking to those folks about that. So network security, phishing, whatnot, those are areas that, again, you just need to have excellent diligence. I mean, you folks learned the hard way, unfortunately, how to react to an IT disaster. When I first got involved with this audit in 2017, we were doing the audit in an old building down the street because we had a water issue. And boy, that IT group had to do something really fast. And fortunately, they had the processes in place. So that is a testament to those folks over there. Because you were up pretty quickly, weren't you?
No loss of service.
No loss of service, excellent.
If I could jump in, I did go to a cybersecurity conference a couple weeks ago in Milford for schools and towns, but there is a grant opportunity, I think, opening this week to do a cybersecurity audit of your town. And I know you've done the cybersecurity training for staff too.
Yeah. That's an excellent opportunity when those grants come up to have somebody do some penetration testing and whatnot. Now, you folks had a lot of turnover recently, so that's an area that just needs to be looked at. When we take a look at municipal fraud and theft, there's a greater opportunity for it when there is flux. And you folks have to so be diligent in that area. And then again, just making sure everybody's trained up and understands what their roles are and how one department's actions affect others and ultimately the financial well-being of the community.
And process-wise, any suggestions? I think security is something on everyone's mind, especially in this age and era. Cybersecurity is tremendously, I think, vulnerable for many reasons, as best as we can be, but even then, there are AI-driven and others are constantly coming. So it's a constant war, and we definitely, I like the idea of doing an audit and taking a grant where we can. But process-wise, do you feel we are pretty solid? And I know we are solid. Any opportunities again?
Well, I mean, written policies and procedures need to be updated, particularly, again, with personnel transitions. Great opportunity. It's a training opportunity. It's a key element in any internal control system, but it's particularly valuable in times of transition. So I remember some of the past managers, when they were working on it, it hasn't been completed yet. That's something that resources should be dedicated towards.
Thank you. And my very last question for now is, what in your view is a healthy stabilization fund ratio for town, for school?
I can honestly say no one has ever asked me that question. I've not really thought of it. I think I may have to get back to you on something like that. I'd have to take a look. Many times we take a look at your reserve balances, your policies, in the same way that, say, an S&P might look at it, and that's what I would recommend. What are the S&P recommendations? Because for you folks, having a AAA credit rating is a sense of pride to the community. So I think I would suggest taking a look at what their recommendations are and then benchmarking against that.
From the rating agencies, yeah. Certainly, we are proud of our AAA, and we work really hard all together to keep that.
Affords you the opportunity to have lower interest rates. If you want to do larger projects, and it's sizable. If you're looking at a $150 million school, and you're going to pony up $100 million of it, 10 basis point difference in your interest rate is real money.
It's huge.
It is big. And one thing we have done is our stabilization fund contribution, we have almost doubled or more than doubled it in the last 2 years. So that is a positive thing, knowing that, we have big expenses coming and whatnot. But we're always curious in, what is the good range for allocation on that, and if there is.
So speaking to that, you had $9.6 million of free cash. By moving some of that money into stabilization, it permits you to do certain other types of investments.
Correct.
That are permissible in a trust fund like a stabilization fund than in the general fund. Fortunately, we're in a black swan time frame where money markets and CDs and again this MMDT municipal trust are paying pretty significant rates. That's not typical.
Right.
But by allocating or appropriating, because you have to appropriate free cash into stabilization, the mechanism of taking it out of free cash and out of stabilization is identical. Still have to go to your governing body or your town meeting. But it does allow you to do different investing, legally permissible investing.
Sure, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we can check on the S&P recommendations. And if you find anything, feel free to share it. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Perfect.
I'm all set.
Thank you. I just have a sort of a broad general question. Given your experience with this town and so forth, and looking forward to the near future when that new school and debt will be coming online, do you have any thought, like, how do we protect, if we can protect the AAA rating? I know it helps us as we borrow for that big school, but does all that debt coming online put that AAA rating into peril?
I think I would defer that to your bond counsel. That's not my area of expertise. Just as a general investor, I can't imagine it wouldn't affect it.
Right.
But that's a question better. Did you folks use Hilltop or Unibank? I don't recall off the top of my Unibank, so I would, and those folks are fantastic. Give them a phone call.
Yeah.
Be able to probably do a document for you, or at least provide you that answer.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the thoroughness of the report, and certainly it's always good to have good news.
Thank you. If I may, Terenzio, it's been great working with you. And specifically, I want to acknowledge your patience, your cooperation, as well as willingness to also guide, especially this year when we're going through some transitions in the office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure working with you. Might be the last time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And then the quarterly deposit and investment report. Hello. Thank you for your patience. Welcome.
All right, so you guys will remember me not that long ago, CJ, the treasurer.
Yeah. Sorry,
Are you settling in?
Do you mind moving towards the microphone?
I'm sorry, so I'm CJ, the new treasurer, as you guys remember me.
We do.
And Carla, the new CFO. So 3 weeks in.
Nice.
All right. All right. So we wanted to talk about the report today. Obviously, this is the first time we've issued it, and we plan on moving forward, having it a lot closer to the end of the quarter than, 3 months in, because this reflects obviously for 12/31 of '23.
Yep.
So our plan going forward is to have it done a lot quicker than within 3 months.
Perfect, but understandable under the circumstances.
Yes. And so our summary is it's a very good story. Our last quarter, we earned over $1.7 million in interest, and that is pretty significant. That's more than double the amount in interest for this past quarter versus quarter one. So to put into how markets have came up this year, that's a big jump. We have over $91 million in deposits, and given the stability of interest rates as of right now, we believe that it will continue to grow in quarter three. The finance department experienced turnover in staff of 2023. We have one open position and are actively recruiting for the assistant treasurer job. Given all the new employees, we are very busy onboarding and cross-training. Especially cross-training, we find that the more cross-training we can do, the better the office functions.
So when I first joined, one of the things I noticed is we have a lot of key dependency on single people. So this cross-training, updating procedures, and spending a lot of time as a team to understand the different tasks is really important. So we know where the risks and the control points are and need to be going into the future. So CJ and I have been working hand in hand over the past couple of weeks to put together a plan to what we want to accomplish in the next 6 months.
Wonderful.
We have also hired new staff. Sam is a new administrative assistant, and she's doing wonderful. And we also have a new payroll manager, Rita, who has been helpful as well. We're very excited to have them both.
One thing to note, though, is this department would not have been successful without John and Renee and CJ and Susan. Without that stability, it would have been in chaos. But they all stepped up and they all did multiple jobs over a period of months. So kudos to them.
So we also continue to attend trainings, as Terenzio touched on. He kind of gave me some personal IT security, which is very nice of him.
Good.
It's nice to have the support from, all over town, whether it be our vendors, whether it be within town. It's a very welcoming environment, and it's great to have. And so we're also starting to work on a few different projects that will help streamline the work and will help create more efficiencies within the department. As Kyla touched on, we're also updating our SOPs, which we have found some of them are outdated. So they're in need of being updated slightly. As our software has changed, a lot of the detail gets updated. So an SOP from 3 years ago may not necessarily work anymore.
Right.
And the number of manual tasks within the department is pretty significant. So we're looking at the different technology within the town as well as with some external vendors to see if we can cut out the manual tasks in order to streamline the work and create more accuracy.
On that note, we were using something, was it from Granicus or from one of the vendors that have more budget management? And then you can also compare with other towns' budgets. I forgot the name of the software.
Oh, the ClearGov?
Oh, yeah.
ClearGov, right?
Yeah. Day to day, we use Munis. However, for our transparency, we're using two tools, ClearGov, and I forgot the other one. Yeah.
Now for ClearGov, I think we didn't use all of their tools, right? And I haven't checked it recently, so enlighten me. I think we didn't have the full depth of comparative insights. If I want to slice by our towns with similar other town at more granular level, something to look at. It helps at times for benchmarking, as you know.
Definitely, thanks.
Yeah, just to be clear, we are not a customer of ClearGov anymore.
Oh, we're not?
Yes.
We used it for a couple projects, right?
Yes. Yeah. And also, DLS has done a very good job in making budget information from all the Massachusetts towns available for the public.
I'll check that out. That's why I didn't see it on ClearGov. Now it makes sense. I'll check it out with you offline.
The last thing I wanted to touch on was that we're also starting to digitize slightly more. A lot of our documents within the office are paper, but for research purposes, I found, throughout the months, it's a lot easier if we can have them in a secure location and be able to search for a specific document. So we've started to implement that as well.
Great. Well, first of all, very nice job. A couple of weeks into new jobs. Really appreciate the report. Appreciate the staff that was here before holding the rope, and appreciate the new talent that's through the door, and that you are working so hard early together to get systems and processes and so forth in place. So I guess what I just want to say is keep us informed of what we can do to support your efforts to build efficiencies and sustainability in your department, for sure. So we want to hear about it. Thank you. Irfan, do you have any questions?
No questions, but just really a commendation that, with so much turnover, stepping into these new roles, for you to be able to manage it, the cross-training, I love it. I think it's quite an accomplishment, so keep it up.
We're going to have fun.
Yeah, no, certainly I didn't get to see this before, so I'm very happy to see it. And again, it's great to see that we have now formed a new team and ready to go, and you have jumped right in. There's tons to do, and it's a great department. They've really stepped in. I couldn't agree more. We didn't feel anything in terms of the town's activities and whatnot. So kudos to them, and thanks for jumping in. So.
I was just going to add, in the spirit of the transparency and searchability on the town web files, we just saw that the accounting document that they just presented is on the town web files, but the quarterly investment report is not there yet. So I'm sure you'll add that tomorrow. You will get back to work.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that we have such a diversity in our holdings and investments. I remember a time when I was here years ago, and it was really just very few holdings and investments, and now we have quite a range and quite a diversity, and that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the wonderful work. Thank you.
Appreciate the good message, too. I know it can't always be that way, but yay. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, you can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next item of business is the hiring process updates. So I don't know that we have particular updates on the town manager hiring process, or do we?
We
I think there are some changes from last
we do have some specific information for the board on each of the processes. And Jessica.
Hi.
Yeah, Jessica is here with me. She will help me along, beginning with the town manager search process. We now have contracted with Community Paradigm. They are scheduled to appear before the board next week.
Great.
To present their program, their schedule, and engage the board on some of the key topics that apply to the process. We have begun working with them in developing a couple of tools that will help the process, specifically reaching out to the select board and senior leaders to better understand what you're looking for in your future permanent town manager. We are also working on developing a survey that will allow them to reach out to the wider community to seek the community's input. So that's the town manager search. In terms of the deputy police chief, as reported at your last meeting, position has been posted, applications are coming in, and we will have future updates for the board. That's your...
Could, so the posting for deputy chief went live on what date?
14th.
The 14th. So it's open until the 12th of April, right? And then there's a series of scheduled steps. Are we able to schedule those in advance so that we get them scheduled, so we know when the hiring committee will talk to the candidates and that kind of thing. Can we just get them on the books according to the schedule that was laid out? Is that possible? Great. Thank you. That would be wonderful.
Yes, and we can now report to, we've reached out to the chief from NATIC.
Yep.
He has agreed to participate.
Oh, that's great news.
Yes.
Great news. Chief Hicks.
Yeah, Chief Hicks. I want to thank the police chief also for helping in that regard. We moving on to the deputy fire chief. Deputy fire chief.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, deputy fire chief, we're making good progress. We have identified a consulting group to work with. We reached out to 3 companies. We received 2 responses, and the most responsive response was from MRI.
Okay.
So we'll soon be working on a contract with MRI with assistance from the fire chief.
Great.
And then the lieutenant positions, I believe the chief, Chief Bennett, submitted an update to the board. Interviews were held yesterday. The chief has completed his assessments. He has indicated that it's now, the process is moving to now engaging with the board.
Yep.
And having the board articulate to the community and to the chief what the next steps are going to be. So that's the discussion point for tonight.
No, thank you. I was just asking, the chief sent an email with an attachment.
It was today, this afternoon. I have not interacted with it. Yeah.
I was going to say, is it going to be available for public consumption?
I think in the next packet.
In the next
packet, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're referring to the updates that we received from the chief. Yeah. But again, the question is, what does the board want to do next? The chief has completed the interviews, he's completed the assessments.
And he's rated the candidates, right?
Right,
On the
and he's
criteria.
ready to present his selection of candidates for us to interact with and meet with and evaluate and interview.
Yeah. Through the chair, I think the final selected candidates, if the chief and HR can share some of that information ahead of time, and then we can schedule some time to meet the final candidates like we do. If we have any questions in between, we can always ask ahead of time or prepare them so there's no surprise in the meeting in some ways. I think that would be a reasonable approach.
Right. It's the approach we used last time for the sergeant, so it worked, we agreed. So that's...
In this case, there's only one lieutenant opening, correct?
There's one opening, but there'll be final candidates to interview and select.
Okay. It's not usually the chief makes a recommendation for
the
one?
candidates, for the finalists.
Okay. Is that in line with the contract?
So the question is?
With the union contract, does he recommend just that one finalist, or if there's multiple, they would be all recommended?
My understanding is that the chief makes a recommendation. In any hiring process,
okay,
there can be one candidate, there could be more than one candidate. It's up to the board again. It's up to the board to discuss how you want the process to move forward. In terms of have we complied with the contract? The chief doing the interviews, doing the assessments, that complies with the contract. He makes a recommendation to the board that complies with the contract.
So do we know when that will be? We will receive his recommendation?
My take from the conversation we had this afternoon is he's ready. The chief is ready. Yeah. Yeah.
So when is our, probably not next meeting, but the meeting following that we can at least hopefully target to address it?
The 16th?
The 16th?
16th.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so. I think in the email.
That gives us time.
The email chief was if I read it correctly, I read it quickly, almost five positions are ready to be filled out in the next few months.
Of the officers.
Of the officers. Yeah.
Hires.
Mhm.
Remaining five, yeah. They're in different stages.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll update the report on that under the town manager's report.
Right.
Yeah.
So to look at the numbers, and if you have it, that's great. If not, we can come back to it later. So we have 29 officers' position. We were at 21, or now at 21, and we have 5 in the pipeline. So if all those go as the final, or variety of stages, almost towards final, sounded like. So that'll take us to 26 out of 29, if we go ahead and complete all of those, or are able to complete all of those. So that'll be almost 90%, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay with the chief, I noticed Sergeant Van Ralton is here. He can speak specifically to the numbers.
Okay.
In our packet, it says 3 of the 5 are ready to come before the select board, so maybe that will be at the next meeting or so.
Three of the candidates. Go ahead.
So last meeting, you appointed Kyle Quinzani. He was in that same process. We have one individual we have 3 individuals we're hoping to bring forward next week. Those 3 individuals, one is scheduled for an academy in May with a graduation in September. One of the individuals is scheduled for a June academy, and the last candidate would be scheduled for a July academy. And they would all anticipate a graduation beginning of December.
As early as next week, did you say?
Correct.
Oh, that's great.
For those 3. And then we have 2 more that are still working through the process with HR.
Okay.
But they all need to complete the academy, so they can't start for a while.
This group, yes.
Yeah.
That's great news.
In that case, instead of 16, do we want to do next week? Because I heard they'll be ready for next week.
Through the town manager's office, we did put a placeholder in.
For next week?
For next week.
Okay. For the new candidate, the new hire candidates. Okay. Great. That's amazing. Good news. You guys have been working hard, hiring like mad. Thank you.
I noticed the board was also, with the chair's permission, interested in hearing more about the general staffing that falls on the town manager's report. If that's okay, we can jump onto that. Since we have Jessica here, we are pleased to report that we have identified and will be representing and will be presenting the town's next HR director at your meeting next week.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
HR director.
HR director.
Yeah, HR. Wonderful.
I want to acknowledge the effort put in by Elaine. She was leading that process, working alongside other senior leaders. And as usual, HR was providing the administrative support. Jessica, you want to speak to the other hiring processes? I can do that.
Yeah, I don't have that sheet in front of me,
I can do that.
but I can certainly speak to any of those.
Yeah. We included in your meeting packet an update, and we spoke already about the town manager, deputy police chief, police lieutenant, and then administrative assistant in the land use. We've reposted that position. The application period will close on the 25th. It closed on the 25th, sorry. Then the dishwasher, we're still looking for a dishwasher, please.
Still looking for a dishwasher?
Still looking for a dishwasher.
I thought I saw that there was interviews in process. Wasn't that the last update? Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to send my son.
Yeah, we're also looking for a head chef. We are now in the process of scheduling interviews for that position.
Great.
And then, as reported earlier, we've advertised for the assistant treasurer collector. The application process closed yesterday. We have reported on the police officers, again, 5 candidates in the pre-employment phase. And then the young adult librarian interviews have concluded. We're making an offer. Reference technology librarian offer extended and accepted. And then water technician, we've posted that position. It's closed already. We are now evaluating candidates for interviews. We also continue to have open-ended vacancies, heavy equipment operators, per diem dispatchers, and social worker.
It's amazing, amazing work. It's been a very, very busy period of time. I thank Elaine and I thank you and your whole department, especially working a little understaffed. It's amazing. So appreciate that. And also all those interviews, all those senior leaders and staff members who lean in to make these interviews happen. So appreciate everybody's hard work to help substantially build the team here.
Yeah, and in fact, what I also have enjoyed watching from close range is how HR always reaches out across the entire organization to identify people to be on interview panels.
Yeah. I reflect back. I haven't done too many, but I reflect back on the hiring process that I was privileged to be part of, the typical hiring process when we were hiring for a new planner, a principal town planner. And it's a substantially impressive process. Everybody takes it really seriously around the table. We're several different town leaders and participants, both rounds of interviews, and I think it really serves the town well, really looking at people's sort of fit and also expertise, right, to meet the town's needs. So appreciate all the hard work.
Through the chair, quick question. How many are still open now? You mentioned the roles. I was counting 6 or 7. Is it correct or more?
The senior leadership positions are all filled.
That's great. That's
pending the meeting on the second next Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then we have the water technician, we have the dishwasher, the head chef, we also have the custodial maintenance worker, and then the land use administrative assistant. And then we have the grouping of ongoing, continuous, open-ended per diem positions.
Sure. No, that's great. It looks like we're almost there. One just suggestion and question also. Do we do any employee survey, employee satisfaction survey, just to understand the pulse time? Maybe we can start building that as a practice once a year or twice a year, and get feedback on how we can also encourage them or motivate them in their work, support their work. That would be a good practice, I think.
Yeah, we do that. Remember, we have the community-wide satisfaction survey. We also have the employee surveys. And then also, on a voluntary basis, we have the exit interviews. Conducted, yes, those are conducted by.
That's great. That's awesome. For the employee surveys, do we publish I'm sure we do. I probably haven't seen it. Is there a way to make it available and also look at the trend, things of that sort? Those are all good HR practices. So.
Yes, in fact, we are wrapping up on one survey conducted with a professional company. That company does these surveys nationwide. So they do have the ability to provide comparative data from other jurisdictions.
Excellent.
However, our effort, for the most part, always is to identify what we call our market basket towns. And with some of the surveys, it's not easy to come up with a repeatable process that you can measure to bring up those towns. Because not everybody, for example, not everybody does this survey the way we would be doing it.
Right, yeah. And that's a great.
Year-over-year trend data is
Trend data is
so important.
Yeah, even one is comparative with other towns, one is comparing with our baseline. Going
Ourselves, yeah.
on a trend basis. So anything you can share on that would be great, I think.
In fact, I should mention the amazing work that you saw, I think, at your last meeting, breaking down our recruitment.
Yeah, thank you for that.
The bulk of that work was performed by none other than Jessica.
Oh,
Thank
you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very helpful report. Right?
Perfect. Getting better every day. It's awesome. You know, some of these processes really start to build sustainability and strength. You know, people, particularly, I'm a big fan, and I know everybody else on the board is too, the transparency in the process, so we can see where we're strong and where we need to fortify. I do this work professionally too, and I always try to remind people that some of the gaps, right, are the opportunities, right? We know where we're strong, and we want to, you know, maintain that and build on that. But the gaps are not necessarily negatives; they're opportunities to be stronger. So appreciate that.
Okay. I think we're all set on staffing. Again, with the chair's permission, if we're now on the town manager's report. Starting off with Main Street, there was no new update for this meeting. PFAS, good progress made. RAB Building Systems has completed the setup for the frame-supported membrane structure. We're still looking at the completion date, first week of May. We're still on target. And in terms of the MWRA, we are continuing our conversations with DCR in terms of whether the town can possibly locate the pump station on DCR land. We're finalizing a letter that articulates the town's position based on a preliminary informal meeting that we had with DCR staff. We are also now actively engaged with the Water Resources Commission. We have scheduled a meeting where we will discuss the status of the town's designs and get a better understanding from the Commission informally on what we should expect relative to the application process. And then we are also continuing to work towards establishing regular meetings with our legislative team, our project team members, as well as also reaching out to DEP and MIPA, because they will be involved in this process. FY25 budget update. The participatory budget proposals are due March 29th. The Appropriations Committee has...
That's good, but on the front page of the town website, it says they're due March 25th, which was yesterday. But did you say 29th?
Oh. My bad, 25th.
So they're closed then, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Such a short turnaround time. Did you get any applications? Or 10. 10, okay, that's good.
Oh, good.
All right.
Good.
Sorry, thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Elaine. Appropriations Committee is already meeting with department heads. Yesterday, they had a great meeting with the school department and the town's IT department. The other meetings, March 27th, Human Services, April 1, Land Use Town Clerk, April 3rd, Town Manager, Finance and Human Resources, and then April 8th, they will meet with CPC. We also have made our annual request to our legislative team, listing projects that could be funded through the state budget process. We included requests around cultural proficiency support. In fact, we worked alongside the school superintendent on a joint request regarding this line of work. And then restoring the two FY24 bond bills. They're very important for the town. We just need to make sure that they continue to be active, such that when money becomes available, we can then seek an appropriation. Capital requests to support the MWRA, sidewalks in town, especially to the schools, trails and roadway improvements. Roadway improvements, there has been a request by the public that we look at traffic circle at Lamba and West Main Street. That's the project that perhaps we, if funded, will begin the design process. And then obviously public health, focusing on vaccinations, DEI, mental health support, and at a macro level, we are restating our request that the Commonwealth looks into funding employee pensions. They are doing that already for school teachers. It would be great if they could extend that to the rest of municipal employees. And also tied to that is the request that pensions be tied to the cost of living adjustments each year.
Is that something that you're doing jointly with, I would think other towns would want that too, or a lot of towns submitting the same request or submitting it together?
Other towns will do that, and again, this is an issue that we can bring up, Elaine, at the MMA, to see if they'll be willing to jump on it for all the towns in Massachusetts. I'm sure somebody else has looked into this before too.
Awesome.
Okay.
Mary Jo, any questions?
No, I have something else in a little bit, but I'm okay with this.
All right, I'm all set.
I just have two general questions. Thank you for the update. These are great. One is for PFAS and MWRA related. Do we need to think of any last-minute action or activity planned for the town meeting, so we don't miss any, specific timeline?
I think in terms of PFAS, it might be helpful for the board as part of Article 1 on board updates to let the public know where we are in implementing the filtration project. The town wanted us to fix that project. I mean, that issue immediately, and we've had delays. So it may be helpful to give an update to the community.
That's a good point. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. In terms of the MWRA, I believe the conversations that are taking place now will help us get to a point where some specific action may be required at town meeting. However, I think what is important at this point is to really identify a robust public engagement process. This is a large project, it is expensive, and we need to find a way to make sure that the information is getting out to the public. For example, this afternoon, Kerry and I had a conversation with Peter Thomas. He's interested in the topic. He wants to be part of the process of getting the information to the public.
Right.
Exactly. I think that's a big part of our ongoing effort, and one of these days we are having this public forum, right, on the clean water advisory board that we were talking about.
Yes, in fact, you and I still need to connect so that we can lay out the plan and specifics.
Right. Yeah. I think
in terms of scheduling.
Exactly. So the idea behind that is to glue all these together so we can have a overall story plan and communication.
System approach. That's awesome. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll follow them.
Awesome.
I'm good.
I had a second one,
Yeah.
but I'll
You can
leave
take
it. So the second one, did I forget? No.
I'm sorry.
I'll have to. Darn. Anyone else have any question? Then I can, oh, sorry, now I remember. So for the health board, I think the latest I saw and heard as a liaison and through communications, we had some hiccups with the grant and we had to furlough a couple of people. And what is the impact and is there any remediation that we can help or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, when was it, Elaine? We had a meeting with the Health Services Department staff and the Board of Health Chair regarding some accounting anomalies that we had been investigating. And at this point, we have a very clear picture on the state of the general fund budget and the expenditures in the department that are tied to contracts outside the general fund, as well as expenditures that are attached to specific grants. We have identified the way forward, and I'm in the process of finalizing a memo that I'll be sharing with the director as well as the Board of Health regarding here's what we're going to do going forward.
Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, again, do you understand the state of the general fund, active contracts, and grants?
Thank you. And a follow-up would be that do we foresee any service impact because of that? I'm sure there are some impact because of two-person not being available, right? Is there anything we can do to mitigate that? Any other, I don't know, I mean, looking at the financial, the operational stuff is definitely yours. But I was wondering if it is, because it's an important set of work that I heard that they are doing. If that doesn't continue, there will be impact on seniors or other service areas. Is there anything we can do to help, A? And B, I'm sure you are doing all the due diligence. Is there any operational improvement or visibility or reporting that we can build in the process to also monitor it better going forward?
Yes. I think what I'm, in terms of the second question, absolutely yes. The memo will outline here are the operational improvements that are required. And here's who's responsible. On the service level side, I think one recommendation I'm going to be making to the board is that the board absolutely is the entity that has the authority to define from a policy perspective the work that we're doing. Thankfully, the department and the board are currently moving forward a strategic planning process. That process will help us identify where are the areas where are our strengths, where are the areas where we need to improve.
And our opportunities.
Exactly, yes, where are our opportunities, and also what are the structures that are required to move forward what the community identifies as the priority for the town. So at this point, policy decision by the board will be supported by the work that is being done through the strategic plan.
That's great to hear, and I'm aware of the strategic plan. They're moving ahead and waiting for more robust outcome as well. I think that'll be great. I'm just curious, and it doesn't have to be now, if you can explore if there is a way to mitigate the immediate impact of the services that are going to be either stopped or reduced because of this impact.
I'm going to suggest we put it on an agenda. I know you're the
that's what I said.
liaison, but let's get it on as an agenda item so that the public is noted and we talk about it.
Yeah, I think there is public interest in this topic,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. The next item of business is liaison reports. Mary Jo?
Yes. I met with the Tax Relief Committee, and then I met with Superiors. and they are really in trouble. They seem to have lost their one of their contributors, and they were able to give out less money. They had more applications this year. They had at least 35 applications, and if they don't find a way of funding somehow, they don't really expect to be in existence after 2025. And they're like down to, they were giving $500, they're like down to 175 per person, which is a drop in the bucket when you look at people's taxes and everything. So they got 2 marathon runners this year, which is great. But with the lack of this funding, it's been difficult for them. And it's going to be more difficult because they're getting more applications every year. So instead of less, and they're giving out less money, they don't just not there to give out more. They give somebody everything. But she would like to address come before the board and just kind of explain to them what's happening over there. Yep. And if that's okay, I want to put it on our future board agenda items.
That's a great idea. There you go. Thanks for bringing that forward. And there's some vagaries and some intricacies about how people can fundraise for that board in particular, and
they can't.
I know it. So I think just for the general public to understand exactly how it's designed and how it works and what the needs are.
That's what they need.
Great.
That's what
Thank
they
you.
need. And there we are.
And are they getting enough funds? They've got 2 marathon runners this year, so
Yes.
it's a possibility it will be better
That's
next
where they're
year.
getting their funds now, but they were getting a portion of funds from laboratory. They're not getting that anymore.
Okay.
No, thanks for bringing that up. I know we have...
And that was for a lot of years. They were getting that. Now they're not getting that anymore.
Totally. And we have regulatory limitations, as you mentioned. But is there any creative way or any other way?
Flexibilities, right? How can
or
we
other
explore?
towns are doing any best practice that we can follow?
Well, there are, some of the towns are doing way better, but I don't really know exactly why. And other towns don't have it at all. We were one of the first to go in and ask the legislature for this, so.
Might be worth, it's a good idea, Shondul, to find out what people are doing that.
I think
might be successful.
I think Sue probably has that information.
Yeah.
I'm worried. The well is drying up fast.
Yeah. And the need is getting bigger.
Yeah.
Right, that's the reality.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Mary Jo.
And actually, the amount of money you're allowed to have is pretty small. It's under 30,000 or right around 20-something thousand dollars. It's not much.
Right. Amy?
I don't really have much, just to, the reminder like last time too, that one of the hot topics at town meeting will be the MBTA Communities Act zoning overlay map change. And the planning board has had a couple meetings on it where they talked about it a lot, so people should really, do you know, Elaine, if there's another meeting coming up on that? Or people should just watch the past meetings to get?
I don't know if the hearing has been closed or if it's still continuing.
Okay, but I know I should have brought the date. Anyway, I'll try to bring the exact meeting date so people can watch, but it would be good for people to watch and get those questions answered before town meeting, because it is a complicated issue, and I think it'll be a hot topic. And then, I think that's for liaison reports.
I was just going to mention that there is a Elmwood Project Community Forum coming up tomorrow for the public. Let me just open it up and see if I can. The Elmwood School, so at 7 o'clock at the high school auditorium, the Elmwood School Building Committee there's actually a survey link on the flyer, but there's going to be a community forum tomorrow night at the high school auditorium at 7. So for all those that are interested.
It's exciting. It
is exciting.
We're seeing a lot of progress.
Shadul, any updates?
Just one quick update. I had the opportunity to attend Dawson Marquis' Court of Honor ceremony. It was wonderful, high energy, and really, I think, highly spirited event. And also, congratulations to him. Congratulations to all the scouts who has become and earned the Eagle Scout badge. It's a wonderful
It's a huge achievement.
Wonderful achievement.
Yeah.
Oh, and the people who weren't here last week still need to sign the certificates.
Oh.
The Eagle Scouts, right?
Yeah, I handed over the ones that I got.
Oh, you did, go ahead, so these weren't
I
signed.
gave it to him, and for the others, I also gave it to the troop leaders.
Okay.
So the Up Charles Trails Committee met
Great.
last week, and they sent over basically the minutes of their meeting. So we're going to reconvene tomorrow. Myself, chair for the Up Charles Trails Committee, and the chair for the CCMC. So we'll be meeting tomorrow, and then hopefully we can come up with a document that we can present to the board. If we can't, I think we'll bring various proposals before the rest of the board, either from, proposal from the Up Charles, proposal from TCMC. And as a board, we're going to have to figure out which charge we want to go with.
Are you targeting any particular week? Earlier you were thinking early.
The earlier the better, because we want to get this moving. How does the agenda for next week's meeting? Seems to be filling up.
Sounds
quickly.
pretty big, actually, if it's.
Yeah. So 2 weeks or?
16th is no.
Next one? 16th
Next one after.
Is that too much time?
The 2nd and the 16th.
Because tomorrow we're meeting with the chairs.
Yeah.
With the idea of, let's have a conversation with the rest of the group before we come to the select board.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 16th would be the
16th might be
soonest.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great. Appreciate some progress on that.
Yeah, well, hopefully we get some progress.
Yeah, well, we're already making progress because
Yeah.
we're
moving it.
Yes, right.
To the chair, I think the economic development discussion we had slated for mid-April, but I'm okay moving it to early May or whatever the next one is.
Early May will be the Maytown meeting, so
Be later in May.
it'll be mid-May for sure, in that case. If it needs to move.
Last time we spoke, we were targeting the week of the 16th, April 16th. Should I plan for that, or?
So let's keep it as a tentative and see how that agenda builds, because it would be nice to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been waiting 9 months.
Taking them off, though. Right?
Yeah.
Checking off each
Yeah.
one.
Okay. I just wanted to, I got an email or text message. I just want to make sure that I did not do any investigative research at all, but a text suggests that there might be a typo in a town meeting article. I didn't think of it when we were talking about the town meeting article. The one to correct the Scribner's error for the strong chief. So I just want somebody, not me, to just double check it and make sure we have it the way it's supposed to be. And then we did get, when we put the continuation of the chief's evaluation on the agenda next week, I think we should plan also to have an executive session if we need it, because we need it to discuss matters that we can't discuss in public. So performance has to be in public, just so everybody knows. I know we all know, but if there is a reason that we need to have one, we should just have one scheduled at the end of that meeting.
You mean after the meeting?
Well, in part of the meeting, but I presume at the end, but it actually doesn't matter to me, either at the beginning or the end. We'll find out if we need it.
What would be the agenda item? We have to be clear on the scope of the discussion.
Yeah, so if we have to discuss anything that has matters to do with health or related, that would have to be an executive session. That's what we heard from the attorney. So just in case we need it, because we couldn't talk tonight. I hope we don't need it.
And on that note, I was thinking, because we have so much items for the agenda, if for any reason Chief is not available, we should have backup agenda so we don't lose the time.
Yeah, we need to do this. I'm very hopeful that we get through this. I mean, we can't.
No, we need
Yeah.
to do this,
Yeah.
and I'm all for doing
Yeah.
this. I'm just thinking,
I think we're going to have plenty, but I will just keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
You'd have to come up, but sure, Karen. Yep. Yes.
Karen Crum, 12 Joseph Road. I just wanted to clarify on that, and I actually was going to catch Norman after the updates he gave. You said you talked to the chief earlier today. Was that about like positions and hiring strategy stuff?
We had a phone call about the lieutenant's hiring process. I'm very comfortable telling you that.
Oh, okay.
So that we can keep that moving forward.
Okay.
So that is good news for the department that we has seen some movement in promotions and the hiring processes, and we don't want to interrupt that for sure.
Okay, so that was what that was.
Yeah, we didn't know it was going to be that way.
Yeah.
Right. Just in full disclosure, I was on my way to an event, heard that he was not going to be able to be here, but had an update on the hiring process. So that's exactly what happened. We wanted to get that update and make sure we were moving forward so we get his recommendation for finalist candidates and the select board can do their job.
Okay.
And make that happen.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So I think that's all that I have for liaisons. Anything else?
I just mentioned this last time too. The discussion about dogs, I wanted that removed.
Yeah, we'll take that right off. You know what happens is I don't get it to Vizuta. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to send it to Vizuta because that's the only reason that's where the disconnect is.
Okay. Or I could even sorry.
Well, if you want to, that's fine. So yeah, I know we wanted to remove it. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move the motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Awesome.